which is called insect pollination, is necessary to maximize CDL and oil content in sunflower, but a low B density is enough. You can hear me? It's okay. It was made with two public institutions, so INRAE in France and University of Florida, where I am currently working, and with three private companies, Syngenta, AgroSolutions, and Arteris Innovation, which were located in France. So first, we know that wild sunflower is self-incompatible, so the pollen from a plant cannot fertilize the ovules on the same plants. But we know that Russian breeding during the 20th century made the crop largely self-compatible. So insects are not necessarily essential to produce seeds, but their visits to heads may increase the pollen transport from male florets towards female florets. Indeed, 24 studies reported different levels of insect dependency for seed sets or seed yield. It was between 0 and 90%, depending on the cultivar. And this difference, the level of insect dependency is measured by comparing the yields between the heads isolated under tulle bags, like on this picture, and with the yields got with heads left in open pollination, like we can see in the picture. Under the tulle bags, so there is only self-pollination and pollination by wind. Insect pollination is prevented, and there is insect pollination in open pollination. But even if there was a lot of work on this question, it remains the question about what is the minimum insect density required to maximize the seed yield and the oil content. So the work took place in France, near the city of Toulouse, in 2015 and in 2017. In 2015, we worked in 4 fields of the cultivar extrasol, and in 2017 it took place in 5 fields with the cultivars Talento, Rialto, and a cultivar which was coded X. So we set honeybee colonies at a stocking rate of 2 colonies per hectare, on the same side as the semi-natural habitats, which were composed by woods or hedgerows, river or lakeside, and which are a source of wild pollinators. And both constituted, the honeybee colonies and the semi-natural habitats constituted what we call a pollinator front. We set 9 sampling plots in each field. So 3 plots at 30 meters from the pollinator fronts, 3 other plots at 140 meters or 280 meters, depending on the field size from the pollinator fronts. And at last, 3 sampling plots at 350 meters or 530 meters from the pollinator fronts. The aim was to get a gradient of honeybee density and also with wild pollinator density. So we expected this density to decrease with the distance from the pollinator fronts. In each plot, we set 5 heads under tulle bags to prevent insect pollination. 5 heads which were left in open pollination to enable the pollination by insects, and 5 heads which were hand pollinated with self-pollen every 2 days to have a measure of the yield potential as a positive control. And we measured the number of full seeds per head, the mass of full seeds per head, and as well the seed oil content per head. We also counted the number of pollinators on 100 heads. It was repeated at least 4 different dates during the blooming period. And we counted honeybees with or without pollen pellets in their hind legs to have the difference between the nectar foragers and the pollen foragers. And we also counted the wild pollinators, such as the bumblebees, syrphid flies, and other solitary bees. And we made the relation between this pollinator density with the yields got with the heads which were left in open pollination. So as the first results, the head visits were composed in majority by the honeybees, which realized 94.2% of the whole pollinator community, and the honeybees were composed of majority by nectar foragers, so it was 91.8%, and in minority by pollen foragers, which were only 2.4%. There were also some bumblebees, 4.4%, 1% of wild bees, and 0.4% of syrphid flies. So we can see here that the pollinator community was composed mainly by honeybees. And indeed, it is the case in the world. Indeed, in the literature, the honeybees constitute often more than 80 or 90% of the heads visits worldwide. For instance, in South America, in Africa, in Europe, Middle East, excepted in Eastern North America, which is the native range area of sunflower. And in that area, honeybees are often in minority, while bees are in a majority. And in Asia, so the Apis mellifera can also visit the sunflower, but there is also a lot of visits by other Apis species like Apis dorsata, Apis serrana, and Apis florea, or by other stingless bees such as Tetragonula iridipenis. But we can see here that worldwide it is Apis mellifera which do the pollination work in sunflower. It is based on 31 studies in the world. And as expected, the number of honeybees per head decreased with the distance from the pollinator front. And as we can see here, there was a big difference between the fields. For instance, the field Talento 1 had the maximum number of pollinators of honeybees per head, and the field Extrasol 1 had the lowest density. The total number of pollinators per head had followed the same pattern. It decreased with the distance from the pollinator front because it was the honeybees which composed the majority of the pollinator community. So we reached what we wanted to have, a pollinator gradient within fields, and we wanted to make the relation between this with these densities with the yields got with the heads which were left in open pollination. So it is what we have here. So here it is the number of seeds per head. And we can see that it first increased with the pollinator density up to threshold located around 0.3 pollinators per head. And then there is no further increase. And it was the same pattern with the mass of seeds per head. So first an increase up to 0.3 pollinators per head, and then no further increase. But when we divide the yields got with the heads which were left in open pollination by the yields got with the heads which were hand pollinated in each plot. So we can express percent of yield potential, and we can see that the percent of seed number potential did not increase with the pollinator density on the whole range of pollinator density. And it was also the case with the percent of the seed mass potential. It can be explained by the fact that the yield potential varies between fields and even within fields. As we can see here, the number of seeds per head and the mass of seed per heads that were got with the heads that were hand pollinated. We can see that it varies a lot between fields, but also within fields with the distance from the pollinator fronts. So it explains a possible explanation. So here, what we can see when there is an increase, for instance, of the mass of full seeds with the number of pollinators per head, it is a correlation between the yields and the pollinator density. And the possible explanation is that the more a plant has a high yield potential, the more it will have a high number of florets or a high amount of nectar per floret, for instance. And so, in the same time, so we have more pollinators per head. And so we reached the yield potential at the minimum pollinator density of 0.2 pollinator per head. But on the other hand, insect pollination had nevertheless an effect on the seed number per head, the mass of seeds per head, and the seed oil content. As we can see here, the yields which were got with the heads that were isolated under tool bags had lower yields than with heads which were left in open pollination, and as well it was lowest than the yields that were got with the heads which were hand pollinated. And on the other hand, the yields got with the heads which were left in open pollination as the same yields with the heads that were hand pollinated. And then we can divide the yields got with the heads that were isolated under tool bags by the yields which were got with the heads that were left in open pollination. We can calculate a rate of self-fertility. So it was 46.3% in mean for the seed number per head, and it was 57.2% for the mass of seeds per head. This increase of the self-fertility between the two can be explained by a partial compensation by the seed size, as we know that when there are a lower number of seeds on the head, the seeds are also bigger. And at last, the insect pollination led to an increase of the oil content by 5.5% in mean. But as we can see here, this rate of self-fertility for seed number or mass of seeds can change a lot depending on the cultivar, but also on the field for a given cultivar. For instance, with the cultivar extrasol, we can see here that the fields extrasol 3 and extrasol 4, so they had a rate of self-fertility for seed number around 35%, while it was, for instance, close to 68% for the field extrasol 1. So as a conclusion, we just saw that insect pollination increased the sunflower seed sets, the seed yield and oil content. And we also saw that the rate of cell fertility depends on the cultivar, but also on the field for a given cultivar. We also saw that the potential of CDL and oil content is reached at least from a pollinator density of 0.2 bees per head. And yet we know that the natural bee densities observed in several publications very rarely fall below 0.2 per head. So in most of the situations, there is naturally enough pollinators in the environments to fully pollinate the sunflower crops. Because in most of the case, there is enough spontaneous beekeeping activity. And we also saw with the literature that Apis mellifera is the main pollinator worldwide, with more, in most of the case, more than 80% of head visits, excepted in the USA, because the sunflower come from USA, and also in Asia, because in these countries there are also other Apis species which pollinate a lot sunflower. Thank you for your attention.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Stan, for your presentation. We're going to save questions for the question session at the end of all the talks in this group. And we'll move on to our next presenter. So if we could switch up the presentations.